I am 75 years old, and the day my closest friend passed away was the day I finally understood how fragile time really is. Not in an abstract way, not as a saying you hear and nod at, I mean in my bones. In the quiet moments afterward, when the world kept moving and something essential was suddenly gone. I'm not telling this to be dramatic. I'm telling it because at this age, you don't tell stories to impress anyone. You tell them because there may not be many chances left to say them honestly. These days, time feels different. It doesn't stretch forward anymore. It folds inward. I notice how mornings arrive faster, how weeks blur together. I notice how often I'm looking back instead of ahead. Since my friend died, I've been thinking a lot about how casually I once treated time, how confident I was that there would always be more of it, more conversations, more visits, more chances to say the things that didn't feel urgent at the moment. I was wrong. The morning I found out he died was ordinary. That's what made it so unsettling. I was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee that had already gone cold. The radio was on low. I remember thinking about whether I should replace a loose hinge on the back door. The phone rang. I almost let it go to voicemail. That's something I do now more than I'd like to admit. When I heard the words, I didn't react the way people do in movies. I didn't collapse. I didn't cry right away. I just said, okay, like someone had given me instructions. After I hung up, I sat there for a long time. The house felt exactly the same as it had 5 minutes earlier. That's the strange part about death. It doesn't announce itself to the room you're in. It just rearranges your life quietly. He and I had known each other for over 50 years. Long enough that there wasn't a clear beginning to our friendship anymore. We met in our early 20s, both trying to look more confident than we were, both pretending we knew what we were doing. Back then, life felt wide open. Time felt endless. We talked about things we were going to do someday, trips we'd take, ideas we had, the kind of conversations young men have when they assume they'll have decades to figure everything out. We didn't see each other every day, even then, but we knew where the other was. That was enough. There was an assumption of continuity, like a line drawn forward without question. As the years passed, life filled in around us. Jobs, families, obligations. The friendship didn't disappear. It just became something we checked in on instead of something we lived inside. We'd talk on the phone every few weeks, then every few months, sometimes longer. We always picked up where we left off, or at least we thought we did. I used to tell myself that was proof of how strong our bond was, that real friendships didn't need constant attention. Now, I'm not so sure in my 30s and 40s. I was busy in the way people are busy when they think it's temporary. I told myself things would slow down eventually, that I'd have more space later. When my friend called, sometimes I answered. Sometimes I said I'd call him back. Sometimes I forgot. When weeks passed without talking, it didn't alarm me. I assumed we'd catch up next time. Next time became a phrase I leaned on heavily. I remember once he invited me to come fishing with him. Just a day trip. Nothing complicated. I said no because I had work to finish. That was true. But the truth underneath that was I didn't want to rearrange my schedule. I told him we'd do it another time. We didn't. There were other moments like that. Small ones. Nothing you'd call a betrayal. Just choices that made sense at the time. That's how time gets away from you. Not through disasters, but through reasonable decisions. As we got older, our conversations changed. Less about what we were going to do, more about what hurt. Knees, backs. The names of medications we compared without joking anymore. We talked about retirement in vague terms, what we might do when work wasn't in the way. He talked about slowing down. I told him he'd earned it. I didn't realize how close the end already was. When he got sick, it wasn't sudden at first. It came with explanations and timelines. Doctors spoke in careful sentences. There was hope, the kind that exists mostly to keep people functioning. I visited him in the hospital once. I meant to go more, truly, but the days slipped by. I told myself I didn't want to intrude. I told myself he needed rest. I told myself there would be another chance. The last time we spoke was over the phone. It was a short conversation. He sounded tired. I said we'd talk again soon. Those were the last words I said to him. After he died, I kept thinking about all the things I assumed we had time for. The long conversations we'd never finished. The stories I never asked him to tell again. The moments I thought could wait. Time doesn't wait. At his funeral, I looked around and realized how many people felt the same quiet shock. We all thought we had more time with him. In different ways, we'd all postponed something. Standing there, I understood something I wish I'd understood earlier. That relationships don't end only when people leave. They end when time runs out. There are things you can't fix after someone is gone. You can't clarify. You can't apologize for small distances that added up. You can't go back and choose differently. All you can do is sit with what is. Since then, I've noticed how often I reach for the past without meaning to, how memories surface at odd moments. His voice, his laugh, the way he used to pause before saying something important. I miss him in a way that doesn't fade. It settles. I also miss the version of myself who thought time was sturdy, who thought tomorrow was a given. Old age has a way of stripping those illusions away. Not all at once, gradually. With reminders you didn't ask for. I don't say this to frighten anyone. Fear isn't useful. What I feel now is something quieter. A kind of awareness that doesn't shout. If you're listening to this and you're younger, I won't tell you what to do. I don't believe in instructions handed down from old men who think they've figured everything out. I'll just tell you what I didn't know. I didn't know how easily time slips through ordinary days. I didn't know how final later can be. I didn't know that being busy can feel responsible while quietly costing you things you can't replace. I didn't know that one day the last conversation would happen without any signal that it was the last. Now, I try to live differently. Not dramatically, just more deliberately. I return calls sooner. I sit a little longer when I visit someone. I listen without looking at the clock as often. It doesn't undo anything, but it changes what's left. My life is smaller now, in many ways. Fewer people, fewer plans, but it's also clearer. I know what matters because I've felt the absence of it. Some evenings, I sit in the same kitchen where I got that phone call. I think about how that day divided my life into before and after. How nothing visible changed, and yet everything did. If this meant something to you, I'm glad you stayed. If it didn't, that's all right too. I'm 75, and I don't have the luxury of assuming time will always be there. That belief left with my friend. What remains is this quiet understanding. Time is fragile, and we only realize that when it breaks. I carry that with me now, for whatever time I have left.